brother pastors, Matt, and maybe most importantly of all, people of Calvary, San Lorenzo, and friends. Grace and mercy and peace be to you from God our Father, from His Son, Jesus Christ, who is your Lord and mine. Our peace, our great shalom, our Redeemer. Amen. Man, I was just reflecting a little bit. I thought about it before. I was reflecting as I sat next to you, reflecting some different key moments as I've learned to know you over the course of, so I'm adding it up, I think it's about 18 years. Meeting you shortly after you became the program director at Mount Cross. I believe you were serving with Paul Christ at the time. And Paul was kind of a resurrector of Mount Cross, and you were one of the pieces, the important pieces. I think Paul probably thought he was taking a chance on this young guy. But one of the important pieces that really helped to resurrect many of the ministries and make them effective at Mount Cross again after a near disaster, a near closure. You were an important piece in that. You were a tool that God chose at that time, a person with gifts and abilities and hopes and dreams, and somebody who was still discovering really who you were and what you could do, and yet at the same time entering into it with a great deal of hope and faith. I knew that because probably about 2 or 3 years later, you and I found ourselves late one night out in front of your wonderful home, the Stump House. And you had created yet another fire pit area outside the Stump House, and we were trying it out, and just you and I. And we're talking about the present, and the future, and the possibilities. And it was at that time, I guess, that I really got a handle on understanding the heart for building and pouring into leaders, and your great desire to have those others pour into you. And I heard that from your heart as we reflected and we thought about what was a leader. What did it mean to kind of be a person who also was one who built up other leaders? And what would it mean maybe if you stayed in the camp ministry as you headed up, were looking to head off possibly down to Camp Lone Star? Or what would it mean if someday you might find a different path? And here we find you about 6, 7 years into a different path. I was so pleased, by the way, when I came to celebrate the graduation of one of our members and my good friend Bill Northland, and be there for his graduation and placement. To see that same day, there were you. I didn't even know you were at the seminary. There were you, being placed in the village. And what a gift to see that, and now to be able to see that you have gifts that can be a blessing, and you have been called to serve here at Calvary and in the greater California, Nevada, Hawaii district, and in this circuit too. A very intentional thought of being pastor to Calvary first and foremost, but also entering into this time when we really try hard not to think about little fiefdoms of congregations anymore. And we think very specifically about what it means of who are we together. Who are we together? We think about that as pastors, as leaders, and more and more and more we are thinking about that as the people of God, recognizing the great opportunity. Yeah, it's a challenge, but the great opportunity. And as our text drives home today, our great inadequacy. Our great inadequacy in and of ourselves. But in and of the one that pulls the brand from the fire. It is truly a great turnaround. I want to give you a little context. This passage from Zechariah, many of you have never heard preached on before. I have to tell you, I've never preached on it. So I'm not recycling a sermon. Okay? The reason that I'm preaching on it today is because your future partner in ministry here in Lake Bay area, Aaron Putnam, about 8 months ago, said, "Hey, you really struggle to regularly read and listen to the scripture, don't you?" And I said, "Oh, is it obvious?" And he says, "I've got a tool for you that'll really help you." They put me into this audio Bible that I listen to every day. And about 3 days before it was time for me to make a decision about what text would I like to use for your passage, I listened to this and I listened to it. I thought, that's it. That's it. So this is a strange passage. But understand that it's a vision. It's one of 6 visions that Zechariah was given, the prophet Zechariah. You probably don't know much about Zechariah except Zechariah 9:9. You know, behold, your king comes to you, humble, riding on a donkey, colt before a donkey. Quoted in 2 of our different Gospels. Zechariah 3 is one of 6 visions. I think it might be the most important of all of those visions for us to grasp what it means for the church today. And the vision is not just about a high priest that you heard. And notice I said, envision a cleaned up priesthood. But it's not just an envision about a high priest, because the high priest in this vision is most likely representing all of God's people in the temple, and he is there on the Day of Atonement. That is most likely the context that these people understood this vision to be in and about, and Zechariah grasped that this was happening. That was a big deal. And the priest, the high priest, didn't enter into the Holy of Holies with nobody aware, all by himself. Everybody was aware of what he was doing, because he was representing them. And the people out there would say, he, the priest, is us. He is us. We are in this together. He is the high priest, but we are the priesthood. We are God's people. Okay, so what happens to him, what goes on with him, reflects upon us. So with that in mind, let's just listen to the opening of this. Then he, this is Zechariah's vision, then he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. That's one of those keys that you know it's a vision. Okay? So there's Joshua standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing ready to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, O Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this a brand plucked from the fire?" Speaking of Joshua, the high priest, but more specifically because we're talking at a time that the nation of Israel was being reestablished. Judah was being brought back from Jerusalem after captivity, and they were rebuilding the temple. They were having a little bit of a struggle with that from outside and from within. This is about 520 BC if you're trying to place this. Having a little bit of struggle with it from outside and within. But at the same time, what they're doing is they are trying to rebuild the temple. They're struggling with it. And Zechariah, his job as a prophet is really to encourage them and to be God's push on them to get this done, to follow through. He and Haggai were the two that really were the prophets at this time, to help them to understand this, to be God's people again in this new land. And they truly were a brand. What does that mean? They were a piece of kindling from the fire that was still burning. And they had been plucked and extinguished and saved from being completely consumed. I want to stop for a minute. Any of you ever felt that way? You were in the fire, either individually or collectively. And the great fear was that you might be consumed. And that might be the end. This is a picture of God's grace and care and His great love for His people. It says, Satan, you have no part here. This is a brand that I pulled from the fire. Now, I don't just apply that to this place or to that time. I think about it in myself, individually. And I challenge you to think about it as individuals as well, as a brand that was burning in danger of being consumed completely. Pulled from the fire. Pulled from the fire. And Satan is told, no. You are not in control of this. You do not have a place here. This is my nation. These are my priests. This is my priesthood. That's a great way to begin, isn't it? And the angel said to those who were standing, it says, now Joshua was standing before the angel, clothed with filthy garments. And the angel said to those who were standing before him, remove the filthy garments from him. I'm sorry, the ESV just doesn't do this justice. This doesn't even come close. If it was the Day of Atonement, if this was truly the vision that was going on, Joshua, the high priest, would have in no way, shape, or form, with all of the people there at the Day of Atonement also, have gone into the Holy of Holies with soiled clothing. There was a process, a threefold process that culminated in him making atonement for the whole nation of Israel. And he actually took a complete bath 3 different times and put on new clothes. There is no way that he would have gone in there with soiled garments. And you know the word for soiled was manure. That's what he was soiled in. He was soiled and awful. O-F-F-A-L. This would have been tremendously offensive and caused him and the whole nation of Israel to be unclean. It would have caused him and the whole group to have no place before God. So what does the angel do about it? It says, angel of the Lord says, remove those garments. He strips him down away from the priesthood completely because the garments and the turban made him the priest. So he strips the priesthood away from him and then gives it back to him, pure and clean. Let me get personal for a minute. None of you know how little I deserve to be a pastor. Except me. Matt, only you know that by the grace of God, I'm standing today. Only you know how profound that is. And what I have to say to you is, don't ever lose sight of that. I stand here a new, cleaned up, pastor, priest before God because of His grace, His calling alone. That's the only thing that qualifies me. He has dressed me. He has put that turban back on my head. He has guarded my heart, my body, my mind, and He's the one that I continue to go back to be clean. And for Joshua, he represented not only himself, but he represented the nation. And so I say to you, members of Calvary, be careful about holding on to anything from my past that I think justifies my existence before God or our existence before God as a congregation. Be careful. Those thoughts and those feelings become our idols. Our idols, the things that we have done to be worthy. I'm about to trip over baptismal water. That's a good thing. What makes you worthy, people of God? Your calling, your naming, your cleansing that comes only from the blood of Christ. That comes only from the washing of the Almighty. The naming that He has placed upon you and replaced upon you. I could go on in this text forever, but I won't. As we finish it up, as we look at the rest of this text, there's some really important allusions. One is to the branch. You know who the branch is, right? Behold, a branch is growing. Maybe you sang that just this Christmas season. So you know who the branch is, don't you? The branch. And then we also see this picture in chapter 3, right there at the end, where it says, I will remove the iniquity of this land in a single day. It's connected to the branch. What's that? It's the day of the Lord. It's His death. It's resurrection. The culmination of that messianic promise. Single day. What does this bring about? And that day declares the Lord of hosts, every one of you, I'd like to add a little parentheses in there, every one of you is made new. Because that's the only way that you will stop, I will stop, you will stop, orbiting around our own self and our own needs and our own desires, and we'll do what it says in this text. Invite his neighbor to come under his vine and under his fig tree. Thinking not of myself, but thinking of the one who has called me into cleanliness, who has defended me from the evil one, who has pulled me like a brand from the fire, who is the branch. The shoot has come out of the stump. The one who is that, who has made the world new all in one day, who has made me new, who has made this community new, and calls me to love my neighbor as myself. More than myself, in fact, as much as God loves my neighbor. Can you envision a cleaned up priesthood? Now, there's all kinds of allusions you could have come to. When I threw that title out there, you could say, well, perhaps Pastor Lange's talking about the reality that We at different times have struggled with the pastoral office here in this congregation. Maybe he's talking about it. You know, Gary's not worked out very well in the last few months. Maybe he's talking about that, you know? But I hope what you hear and you walk away with is a God who envisions, who has helped Ezekiel to envision the high priest Joshua. A cleaned up priesthood made new. Just like your high priest, prophet, and king, Yeshua. Represents all of us, cleaning us up and making us new. Once for all. In Jesus' name, amen.